Welcome to this training session. I just wanted to give you a quick overview over all the things that are relevant. If you want to turn your voice into a powerful instrument, which it will only be ultimately if you have full control over really all areas of it, then I want to go over some things that you need to always make sure you work on and to check off to do that. You need an action plan. Just doing random acts and practicing random exercises, singing songs and just hoping that by repeating them over and over again, it's going to fix itself. That is not going to happen. If anything, if you don't do it in an intentional way and you don't know what it is that you actually need to work on, that you need to change, and what are the things that you need to keep doing the way you do because they're good, you might just get into bad habits and reaffirm them over and over again. So if you do the wrong thing with the wrong habit over and over again, it's even going to be even harder, even, lots of evens. It's going to be so much harder to get rid of the bad habits, than really having someone or knowing how to tell yourself, this is something that is definitely a problem. I have identified this. This is something that is really important in order to control my voice better. And that is something I need to focus on. And then you can look for the exercises that are relevant for that. That'll actually help you make a change to get out of the bad habits and then ultimately lead to better control. That's all what we need. We don't want to be dictated by the limitations of the voice, but we want to be able to do pretty much anything we want the voice to do. Now, what you cannot make your voice do is sound like someone totally different. Like you were born with your voice, so it's all within the parameters of what your voice will naturally be able to do. So let me go over the list. And if you have not downloaded the free checklist, you need to do that. The link is below here. Make sure you download the free checklist if you don't have it, because, laminate it, pin it on your wall in your practice, put it on your music stand and check where you need to work and then get intentional about it. Number one, posture. I'm surprised at how many, even advanced singers, often have really bad posture. Now think about this. I have a background in opera. So in opera and musical theater, you have to do a lot of stuff that involves not standing straight. So, you have to lie down, like really all the way up to basically doing a handstand. You have to get in all these different positions. But here's the thing. When you know good posture and what is relevant in order to activate your support, which means the torso is really important. Hunched over, you cannot activate your support, but straight torso, you can do all kinds of things. So as long as that is given and you can stretch yourself, you can get into all kinds of positions. You can sing a really high pitch and lie down or make a headstand. You can still utilize your diaphragm, but knowing the basics on how to be lifted and how to open yourself up to where you don't constrict your breathing and your support, so important. That is like the baseline of everything, because without that good posture, your breathing will suffer, your support will not be like it could be, you can't control it, and a bunch of problems will just follow. So your posture is extremely important. The next thing is your breathing. Air is literally the life of your voice. Without airflow, nothing will happen. There's no vibration of the vocal cords. So how the air flows inward is really important. How to have an inward breath that is efficient, that does fill your lungs, that is at the speed that you need it without being constricted. So sometimes we need a slow and steady breath. Sometimes we need a fast breath and still take in a good amount of air. That can be done. You can have little bouts of air and that will work. And how you exhale, that's very relevant, because if you lose a lot of air as you're exhaling and you're singing through a phrase, and after three pitches, three maybe not so long pitches, the air is gone. There's nothing else to work with. And then you get in trouble. Then you You get more shallow usually because you're getting stressed, you're not making it through the phrase, and then a bunch of problems are triggered. So having that control of the inward and outward breath, it's kind of what your voice will ride on. There's no vehicle that your voice can function with or, travel on if you don't have the air that flows. And it first must go inward to then flow outward. And that needs to be controlled. So the next thing is support. Support will control how the air flows. So kind of, posture, breathing, and support. It's all an entity. They go together because one affects the other. Your support is really important in creating like the speed of your air and the density, like how hard is that, with how much force do you push out the air, and inward also, breathing inward. You have to activate your diaphragm in a different way than when you have a really slow and steady inward breath. It's a whole different feeling in my core and my diaphragm here. So, and also creating that subglottal compression, which we do need at some point to create more intensity in the pitch, to have more grit. That is really important. Vocal cord closure goes into that also, but the support is instrumental in how you use the air that even goes through. The next thing is vocal registers. Now, your vocal registers are extremely important because they sound very different. Chest voice, head voice, chest voice, head voice. They just have a different sound quality, and depending on what song you want to sing, you might want to just decide, well, maybe this is where chest voice is more appropriate, and if you sing a pop song, usually more chest voice, and if you sing a classical piece of music as a woman, as a soprano, for example, mostly head voice. However, even as a soprano classically, you will need chest voice at some point. And even as a pop singer, you will need head voice because chest voice has an upper limit of the range. And after that, that's why we have two registers. You transition into head voice, and there you add a lot of range that you could not achieve with just chest voice. So it's very important to not neglect either one of the registers and to be very clear about knowing, like, I know how to use my chest voice and how to be intentional. Like, I want to use chest voice now, or I want to use my head voice now because that is the sound I want to create and it makes sense here. And then, of course, we talk about vocal register transitions, which, to go back and forth between the registers, there's a natural bump in there, but you can smooth that out and you can learn to control that bump. It's never going away. There is a bump in the road because there's a laryngeal shift. That is, everyone has it. It will never go away, and it happens even for professional singers, except that professional singers have learned to smooth that out to where intentionally we decide when we want to transition and when we don't. And we also decide how abrupt that transition will be. It can either be a flip like, ah, or it can be smooth, ah, to where you don't really hear such a big difference and it's not a sudden breaking away. Really important to practice transitions. The next thing is resonance. So if you want to have more nasal sound or more open sound, and if you don't want to sound like everything is just covered up, let me give you an example of really bad resonance. Or like, I don't know how to sing because I'm not opening my mouth. So basically, I'm not creating any open space for there to be any resonance a lot. It's kind of a nasal sound. Also, it's covered. I'm not opening my vowels. It's like, no one can understand a single word of what I'm singing. Maybe you can guess, which that's not fun when you listen to a singer where you have to kind of guess the words. it gets on my nerves. I just can't even stand that. And the next thing is, of course, the voice cannot sound to its fullest, like, yeah, I have a more brilliant sound. Or when I want to sing in my soft voice, I want to have a more brilliant sound. Even when I sing low, and I don't want to sound all nasal and raspy. So big difference in how you direct the sound, which then will create resonance. Of course, the next very important thing is pitch accuracy. Now, if you don't sing the right pitches, nothing else is really going to make it like to where it sounds better. Nothing else will help you to sound better. The right pitch is so important. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. It's like totally off pitch. You can't even recognize the song. It's like, I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you? What is the melody? All right. Pitch accuracy. I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you? You want to be accurate. Even if you're just a little bit off pitch. I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you? Even if it's just a little bit off, it's enough to be all wrong. If it's just every once in a while, just a little bit sharp or flat, not as bad. But as soon as it's sharp or flat, your audience, anyone who listens to you, including yourself, is going to go like, oh, that was wrong. It's the one major thing that people will comment about, it sounding great or it's sounding all off. And lastly, vibrato. Some say love, it is a river. Well, that wasn't lastly. There's one more thing. That drowns the tender reed. Or, some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. A little bit of intentional vibrato will add a whole other dimension. It'll just be more art, and it also will take the strain off of your vocal cords because there's movement going on. It just sounds a lot more professional when you can control the vibrato. Now, if you only have a vibrato that is always on, some say love, it is a river. It just sounds so different and it's not appropriate most of the time. And also, if you can't turn it on, like I just demonstrated a while ago. And also if it's too wide, like I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. If it's too slow or too wide, it just doesn't sound right. It sounds like woo, like it's wobbly. It's really a wobble and not a vibrato anymore. If it's too small and too tiny, then it's more like a shake. I heard there was a secret chord. I can't even do it. It's really hard to I heard there was a secret chord. If it's just a shake, then it's not a vibrato anymore. Now, lastly, phrasing. If you sing every pitch with vibrato, with good, vocal transitions, the appropriate register, the right pitch, everything's good, breathing posture. But if you just sing every pitch like it's the same, it's lifeless. It's not art. It's just it's blah. It's like, I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. It's really hard for me to not phrase. But you don't really care for music, do you? because there's a lot of things that go into phrasing. I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? So not every pitch has the same weight. It's like da 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 da, like we speak. It's more natural. It's more easy. It's easier to grasp for your audience, musically and lyrics-wise. Also makes more sense, and it just gives it more of a shape, and it just gives it a life, really. So those are all the things that you really need to focus on. If you just identified a few things that you think, I never was aware of this, I never even thought about it, maybe I should start working on this a little bit, well, then you should. But make sure you download this free checklist, because it's a good reference and you can make notes. It's like highlight it. Here's what I suggest. Laminate that list and then take one of those, whiteboard markers, and then you just circle in on one or two of these that you're going to start working on. Do like a boot camp. Be very intentional. Pick out some exercises that are specifically for what you're working on. Pick a song and focus specifically on what you're working on. Not everything all at once. You can't. And then get to work and do a little boot camp. Do like an entire week where you focus just on one thing, and then an entire week when you focus on another thing. Don't try to add everything all at once, but add another layer and add another layer. And see how that progression works for you, and how you will start tweaking the sound and improving and starting to have more control over your voice. If you wanted to dive a lot deeper, you can check out my Back to Basics course, because every single point that I just talked about, I go deep in explaining how this all works, and I give you exercises practically that you can apply, that you can go through, and I even have challenges for many of these areas, where you have like a better transitions challenge, where for an entire week you can just work on all of those things. And for an entire week you can work on your mixed voice, which really only means you're balancing out the sound between the registers to where there's not a hole in the middle and a sudden shift to where it sounds like an entirely different singer. You want to balance it out. That is mix. It's not a register. It's just putting together both registers and having this smooth way to go back and forth. So check out the course if you want to, because it will take you on a journey of going through all of these areas and fixing each one of these. I hope you enjoyed this training today, and I do hope you get to work to be more intentional, because there's nothing more frustrating than singing through a song over and over and over and over and over and over again, and through exercises over and over and over again, then getting really tired vocally to where maybe the next day or the next couple of days you can't really sing very well because you're phlegmy, you're hoarse, you're strained, but then still you got nothing to show for because there's marginal improvement. Be more intentional and go through the steps that are necessary and fix the things that are actually going to make a difference, to where you have things on your radar, and start listening in different ways. When you now listen to other singers, listen to, now what are they doing with vocal registers? Are they in head voice? Are they in chest voice? Oh, they just did a transition. Oh, I hear how they're working with the vowels to create open sound, resonance. Okay, so all those things, be careful and be mindful about, like just having your antennas tuned into, this is what I need to pay attention to make music. You are a musician as a singer. Have a wonderful day. I hope I will see you in one of my courses soon, and happy singing. Always keep a song in your heart and always keep on singing.